How's it going, guys? Today I'm going to be showing you how to stream and record lag-free using OBS in 2022. So first of all, you want to get your OBS open, of course. So you go into your settings, and we're not going to be doing anything with this stuff today, the stuff out here. We're just going to be going straight into the settings, and what you want to do is all this general stuff is your preference. There's not much here that actually matters to the stream. This is where you can put in your Twitch or YouTube, that kind of stuff. To be able to stream, this is your output. So this is what matters right here, is the third tab down. It says output. So for streaming, you want to make sure this is an advanced. Want to go down here, make sure that's checked off. Click that. It's usually going to say NVIDIA or something like that. You want to make sure the encoder is X264. That's because when you're recording or streaming, it goes through your processor, or you want it to go through your processor, but the default option goes through your graphics card, so it takes away from your game and usually makes the game and your stream lag. So that's why if you use the processor to stream and record, it's just better for your gaming and streaming. So then you want to go down here. Don't worry about this as long as it's 1920 by 1080 or your monitor size. Make sure the rate controls CBR. Your bitrate, you want it to be from anywhere like 1500 to 3000. 1500 being like a laptop, and 3000 being like a decent computer. Sometimes if you have a really good computer, you can go all the way up to 5,000 or 6,000. The bitrate is basically how clear the screen is gonna look. But when you stream and record, it shows the bitrate going through, and usually if you don't have the best internet connection or hardware, it will limit your bitrate and it'll make it really pixelated, so you want to find that perfect bitrate for you. And if you do have to run a low bitrate, it's not the biggest deal. It just makes your screen a little more pixelated for when they're watching. So the higher the bitrate, the clearer, but you need a better PC and internet for that. Go down here. You don't really have to do anything with keyframe interval or any of this stuff. There is stuff you can do, but it doesn't do much at all, to the point where it doesn't matter that much. And then for CPU usage, you want to put it to very fast. That's somewhat preference for your PC, but very fast is a good in-between for everything. It makes it a little more smooth. And right now what we're going for is to be able to go smooth, because I know for years I've had trouble with my OBS being like a choppy stream. And then one thing, when you're streaming in your game, you'll have your FPS. 90% of gamers have their FPS on unlimited. You do not want that. You want your FPS on capped out at 60. If you have a really bad computer and you want to stream, you have to cap out your FPS at 30. I've had it in the past when streaming Fortnite, that I've had to put it at 30 FPS at my old graphics card when it was terrible. It's just what you have to do. You can't really stream above 60 FPS, or sometimes you can do it at 120 FPS, but anything above that, if you have a decent computer, it'll just lag. You have to have a really good computer or multiple computer setup to go above like 120. But as long as it's not lagging when you stream, if you're on 120, you should be fine. But I still think it's more optimal if you go to 60 FPS, just because your eyes can't even see past 60 FPS, so I go any higher. So we're gonna go into recording now, because it's streaming and recording. This is all basic settings, like make sure you're in advanced. Your recording path is this. You just click browse and you select the recording path. I can't do any of this because I'm recording currently. Make sure the encoder is X264. Don't worry about any of that stuff. File format, you usually want it on MP4 unless you want to, I don't know, do something else. Now for recording, the bitrate is much different. Make sure your rate control's on CBR. So for bitrate, the reason it's going to be so high is because when you're recording, you want the most crisp image you can possible, because it's going to be uploaded to YouTube or whatever, wherever, and it has to be perfect. And to get that, you have to have a very high bitrate. And the reason it can be high is because you're not transmitting that bitrate through a server to stream. You're just recording. So you don't have to worry about your internet. It can just be your PC. And with it going through your processor, you can have a laptop that's not that good. You can run 30,000 kilobits per second for your bitrate. And when you do that, it's a pretty crisp image. And if you run like a 2500 bitrate on a video, it usually looks pretty bad because that video, you have the ability to make the quality really good. And when you record and stuff, you have to make the quality good if you want to succeed in that kind of stuff. So for buffer size, you want 35,000. Keyframe interval 0. So for the X264 options, there's this very complicated code that basically makes it run more smooth. It just adds a little depth into it. I'm not really sure what it does. I had to get it off of OBS's website. I'm going to paste this in the description below, so make sure to go check that out. You can paste it into the X264 options at the bottom of your recording tab here. You don't really have to do this. It doesn't do that much, but it helps. Okay, for audio, you usually just want your audio bitrate at 320, maybe 160, depending on how good your computer is. You don't really have to do much with this unless you're using multiple tracks. Don't worry about replay buffer. So for next, we're gonna go to video. You want your base resolution. So you want your main resolution to be higher than the output resolution when you're streaming. That's so it can downscale, and it actually helps. It helps the image if you just had it on the same thing. But when you're recording, of course you want it at 1920 by 1080. It's full HD. But if you have like a computer or a monitor that only has 1920 by 1080, you want to keep it at the same for even when you're streaming most of the time. When you're streaming, you can always go to 1280 by 720, just because it doesn't really matter that much. You're streaming. But most of the time you want to downscale it, so your base should be, so if I were to stream right now, my base should be 1920 by 1080, and I should downscale that to 1280 by 720. And then your downscale filter should be bicubic, and then 16 samples right there, and then your FPS should be on 60. If you're streaming, possibly 30. Again, streaming doesn't matter that much. It's only for them to watch you live. When you're recording, it should be, you want it to be as best quality as you can. So I wouldn't really worry about much of this. Most of that should be fine, or just to your preference. And like I said, make sure your game is on a good FPS so it doesn't lag out your stream. So I hope you guys found this video helpful for you. Make sure you leave a comment down below, like the video, subscribe if this helped you. Leave any suggestions down below if you need any more tips with OBS, games, any of that kind of stuff. See you guys in the next video. Peace.